Chapter 10, Stoneman Douglas High School, Parkland, Florida. Wednesday, February 14th, 2018. Emily Curtis had been born the middle child of Bill and Sarah Curtis, an accountant and teacher in Parkland, Florida. Before Parkland became Parkland, it was a small community of about 23,000, a part of the metropolitan Miami area. Emily's brother Bill Jr., called Billy by everyone, was not only a star athlete but a straight-A student. Emily's baby sister, Hannah, was blonde, cute, witty, and popular. Emily was none of these things. If middle child syndrome had not already been invented, it would have made its unfortunate appearance through Emily Curtis. Hair brown, not really brunette. Features, average. Height, average. Slightly overweight. In family pictures, it would appear the Curtises invited this random girl to stand with them. Everyone is blessed with a talent. Fortunately, Emily, through her mother's insistence, discovered it when she was 7. At Sarah's urging, Emily was forced into piano lessons. By age 9, Emily was giving concerts for family and friends during the holidays, winning school talent shows, and becoming a human interest story for local papers and TV stations. She was gifted with the ability to listen to music and have those notes travel effortlessly to her talented hands. And she could play anything. By the time she entered Stoneman Douglas, she could just as easily give a 90-minute classical concert as do a list of Jerry Lee Lewis's hits to jazz riffing like Herbie Hancock or Oscar Peterson. When she sat down at the piano, she was not brown-haired, average Emily Curtis. She was Emily Curtis, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of talent. There was the other perspective of her talent, Emily's perspective. Emily did not want to play for family and friends at holiday gatherings. Emily did not want to enter school talent shows, and Emily certainly did not want to be a human interest story for anyone, much less a newspaper or TV crew. Bill and Sarah did. Emily's folks were what anyone on the outside looking in would call stage parents, who expected above-average performance from their 3 children. Bill Jr. loved playing all sports. His father insisted he concentrate on baseball at the age of 11. Bill Jr. ended up playing baseball almost 365 days a year, which soon was cut in half due to the injuries suffered from too much stress on the set of muscles you use for that sport. Hannah was a cheerleader as well as budding future scientist. As in Bill Jr.'s case, Hannah suffered multiple stress injuries and the embarrassment of being scolded by her parents if her science projects didn't win. Bill and Sarah Curtis saved their nastiest, their meanest, their most hateful vitriol for each other, especially when the cocktail hour arrived, which in the Curtis household could be 6 a.m. as easily as 6 p.m. The endless sniping, the cruel digs, the yelling, and that left Emily alone, the odd one out, the forgotten one, the one who didn't leave the room to stay out of the verbal line of fire, the one who wore baggy clothes to hide her uninterest in exercising. When she did play her electric keyboard in her room by herself, she'd occasionally have a parent burst through the door. Instead of asking what piece she was playing, Emily would hear, "We paid good money for you to learn the piano. Then you don't play for anybody. Just sit there in your room, playing on your keyboard. Just yourself. Selfish. You could have been somebody. You could have made a name for yourself. No, just selfish." And that was Sarah. Bill was even uglier. Of course, Emily kept to herself that she had asked for pianos several times and had been told they were too expensive, while Bill Jr. and Hannah went to baseball and cheerleading camps every year. Emily withdrew into herself. She had very few friends in her neighborhood and in school, from kindergarten up to and entering Stoneman Douglas High School in 2014. Her brother was already a star on the baseball team, both as a pitcher and a left fielder. Her father was known as well, having been thrown out of games for excessive verbal gamesmanship, per report, and for loudly berating his son from the stands. Emily's little sister entered Stoneman Douglas the next year and immediately was picked for the varsity cheerleading squad. To be fair, Emily had been approached early in her freshman year, based solely on reputation through hearsay, by Mr. Kaminsky, the school's band director. He wanted her for the music program in any way, shape, or form she felt comfortable participating. So she requested, and was granted, access to the music room whenever it wasn't being used for practice by any of the groups at Stoneman Douglas. Over time, and as Emily and Mr. Kaminsky became more comfortable with each other, she was given access to the side door of the building as well as to the music room. Her house was less than a mile away, and it became a common sight for the neighbors to spy this brown-haired girl, dressed in baggy clothes, walking to or from school at all hours, head down, not looking at anything, responding to no one. The music. It was all about the music. It would pour out of her. All the pain, the loneliness, the emptiness, the isolation, all of it could be heard, be felt in the way she played. One night late in her freshman year, Mr. Kaminsky was in his office finishing paperwork when he heard the unmistakable rhapsody on the theme of Paganini, written by Sergei Rachmaninoff. He had not listened to that piece of music since it was made popular by the movie Somewhere in Time back in 1980. Delicate, haunting. He suddenly remembered where in the movie that song was played. The main character, a writer, discovers in a hotel's hall of history a photo of a famous actress taken back in 1912. The very same actress, now an old woman, who had come up to him the night before as he was finishing a talk at the hotel. "Come back to me," she says to him. Mr. Kaminsky remembered it all, sitting at his desk, suddenly realizing tears were flowing down his face. He looked out, and there was Emily. The word playing does not do justice with how she was performing this piece of music. He could see that she was crying as well, yet he dared not move, dared not let her know of his existence, dared not break the moment for any reason. He sat and listened as she took Paganini and delicately turned it, twisted it, slid away from it, then back to it. All the while the tears never stopped, neither did the brilliance. Finally she was done, spent. She quietly got up, pushed the stool in, and left. Mr. Kaminsky looked at his watch. 2 hours had passed, and he never noticed. As Emily became more comfortable in her surroundings, both at Stoneman Douglas and in the music room, she occasionally would allow a few of her friends to listen to her play. The rules were simple. Emily played what Emily wanted to play. There was no applauding, and requests were certainly not allowed. One day in October, early in her sophomore year, she looked up from the piano and noticed a boy standing apart from her friends. Short brown hair, protruding ears, penetrating eyes, with a semi-scowl on his face. She had been playing some of B.B. King's greatest hits, making the piano sound amazingly close to Lucille, King's guitar. Paying the cost to be the boss, When Love Comes to Town, Every Day I Have the Blues, and was just getting into The Thrill Is Gone when she heard it from him. Nigger music. She got up, stopped, pushed her stool in, and left, saying nothing. She left her friends to berate this guy for not only saying anything, but saying something so disgusting and vulgar. About a month later, she came out of the music room and found him waiting in the hallway. She was frightened, but instantly figured, what the hell? It can't be any worse than what I've got waiting at home. Yeah? What do you want? I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I like your music. I just don't like... He stopped. Them. I don't like you for not liking them. Okay. Can I listen to you again sometime? Could you hear me through the door? Yeah. Then as long as you don't like them, that's where you'll stay. You can listen out here. Okay. Sorry I upset you. You really do play good. And then he walked away. There were several times Emily would leave the music room and see someone scurrying down the hall. Well, at least he knows the rules, she thought to herself. She found out later that he had left Stoneman Douglas due to failing grades and disciplinary problems and thought no more about him. Emily always hated Valentine's Day. While her family was surrounded by love and cards and chocolate roses and stuffed red teddy bears, she felt like she was being deliberately let out of the love conversation. Wednesday, February 14, 2018 was no exception. She had to listen to Hannah's recitation of all the cards and presents she received or would be receiving from My Beaux. Bill and Sarah were heading off to a romantic date night dinner. Bill Jr. had called the night before from the University of Florida, telling everyone about his Valentine's Day plans with Miss Florida from last year's Miss USA pageant. Hannah volunteered that Em's got a date with the music room piano. Chuckles from everyone at the breakfast table except the girl with the piano for a partner. Emily did have a date with the music room piano. When she was angry, she loved playing classic rock and roll, Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, music that would let her pound the keys with no subtlety or nuance, music that would let the frustration pour out of her. But first, there was her creative writing class on the third floor, Building 12, which she enjoyed. Once she was done there, she'd head over to the music building next door and rip into some boogie-woogie. At 2:20, she left the class to go to the bathroom. She tried the door. Locked. Damn, that's right, they locked the bathrooms on the third floor. At that moment, the fire alarm went off. That's strange, she thought. We had a fire alarm this morning. The hallway quickly filled up with students and teachers. This isn't right. Something's not right. Then she heard it, the loud pop, pop, pop that sounded like a hammer hitting metal. Then the screaming, the popping getting louder and louder, pandemonium in the hallway, students falling, diving into classrooms, someone at the end of the hall with a rifle, moving, bending over prone students and firing into them, blood flying everywhere, screams and moans up and down the hall. The shooter looked up. It was him, the kid who said nigger music, the kid she forced to stay outside while she played. He had a rifle. He was killing everyone. She was paralyzed with fear. She couldn't move. She still had her hand on the bathroom door. She watched a boy who had already been shot in the knee no more than a few feet from her, pounding at the boy's bathroom door to get in, pleading for his life. The kid walked up to him and calmly shot him dead. Blood spattered on Emily's clothes, Emily's face. He walked up to her, stood in front of her. She couldn't even get her lips to say, "Please don't." He stared into her eyes. "I like your music." Then he walked past her into the teacher's lounge, where he tried firing through the window, not knowing the window was hurricane-proof. Then, "Bye, Emily." And he was gone. Later she heard he had ditched the rifle and blended in with students who were exiting the building. Because of him. Her hands still white-knuckling the bathroom door, she finally released the handle, stared at the carnage in front of her, and passed out. When she came to, she was outside, laying with wounded students. An EMT asked if she was okay, and did she see anything. She ended up talking to a sheriff's deputy, who took her statement, then sent her on her way. Her parents were with Hannah, who had been on the second floor and had been in a classroom that the kid had fired into. Bill and Sarah were so terribly concerned that their little angel had been traumatized, and that they never even asked Emily how she was until later that night. When she told them what had happened, there was no sign of relief. There was no, "Oh my God, you're so lucky to be alive." What Emily got was a quiet, "How well did this monster know you? Did you have anything to do with this?" There was no sleeping for Emily that night. She kept hearing it over and over. "I like your music." Next day, Emily was in her room staring at her keyboard when she was called downstairs by her parents. She was confronted with 2 FBI agents and the same sheriff's deputy she had spoken to yesterday. Bill and Sarah had called the FBI because they thought their strange daughter had something to do with this horrible tragedy. She told the story of how she met the kid, how she made him sit outside the music room, how she didn't even know his name until she heard it on the TV last night, how she was so scared, so terrified that she froze, that her hand literally was grabbing onto the bathroom handle until the kid left. She showed the agents and the deputy her left hand, she called it a rhythm hand, which had bruise marks from the pressure she put on it. No, she had not ever talked to him before or since. No, she did not know of his threats towards violence in 2016 or 2017. All she knew is, he came to the music room. He was disgusting and rude. He apologized. I think he sat outside the door a few times and listened. Next time I saw him, she began to cry. The FBI agents and the deputy thanked her for her time and left cards for her in case she remembered anything else. When they got to the door, the deputy said to Bill and Sarah, 2 things. 1, you've been drinking and it's 10:30 in the morning. 2, I can't believe you 2 brought us out here. Your daughter has been through an experience I wouldn't want my worst enemy to go through. Instead of accusing her of her crime, show her some loving compassion. Bill replied, loudly slurring his words, "How dare you tell us how to parent our daughter?" The deputy moved closer. Listen, you pompous, drunk, arrogant son of a bitch. If I hear one complaint from your daughter, your neighbors, your friends, anybody, I mean even a peep, that you're treating her any way other than love and kindness, I'm coming back here, take you to jail, then give you the pistol whipping you so richly deserve. Do I make myself clear?" He did, and they left. Emily heard this exchange and checked the cards. In the back of the deputy's card was a note. "Emily, sorry you're going through this. I believe you. If you have any trouble with your folks, let me know." She smiled, thinking, when didn't she have trouble with her folks? Unfortunately, things were going to get worse. Hannah had heard the exchange and immediately told her friends that her crazy sister knew the kid that killed their friends. Through all this, there was media, grief counselors, PTSD counselors, candlelight vigils, and mounds of flowers and notes outside the school doors. Because of her sister, Emily stayed away from all of it. By the time school reopened on February 28th, then through the student walkouts on March 14th and April 20th, Emily participated, but was even more of a pariah than before the tragedy had occurred. Only Mr. Kaminsky, who knew that a person who could play the piano like she could was not capable of being a partner to the evil she had witnessed, stood up for her and her character. It was Mr. Kaminsky who convinced her to play again. Emily was haunted by what the kid had said to her and had not touched the piano keys for over 2 months. Finally, she'd gone to the music room late one afternoon, shortly before graduation, and had sat on the piano stool, staring. After a couple minutes, he joined her, asked what was wrong, and listened to her for close to an hour. As Emily was talking and whispering and yelling and crying, all he could think of was, what a waste. What a horrible waste of a brilliant talent. She deserves so much better than this. He convinced her to play dueling chopstick with him. Then they slid into their piano version of dueling banjos. While they were playing that, she told him about what she had wanted to play on February 14th. They then barreled on the Good Golly Miss Molly, Tutti Frutti, Long Tall Sally, then finished with a whole lot of shaking going on. As they finished with a flourish, they realized that they had an audience of teachers and some students who had heard the amazing music coming from the music room and had been drawn to it. When the cheering died down, Mr. Kaminsky looked at them and with tears in his eyes simply said, "Another hand for my partner and friend, Emily Curtis." The applause was warm and deep. Emily put her head in her talented hands and wept. He soon convinced others of who she really was, especially after sneaking in some of her teachers to hear her play. What Mr. Kaminsky didn't know was that she had been very gently pushed to continue playing. She received a slightly larger than average card the evening before with the postmark Columbine, Colorado. The first words stunned her. "Dear Emily, it's not your fault that a fellow human being killed others but saved you because of your talent that day in February. You should not allow that fellow human being to steal that talent from you now." She read, she followed, she became Parkland 35. She learned all she could learn about the ring of hell she had unwittingly entered and about the kid. The next day, she went back to the music room. Emily graduated from Stoneman Douglas High School on June 3rd, 2018. Her parents, her sister, and her brother were not there to watch her receive her diploma. There had been several incidents since the morning of February 15th. The last one was Saturday, May 26th, and it had been bad enough that Emily was forced to use that frayed deputy's card she carried around. There was liquor involved. Punches had been thrown both by Bill and Sarah at each other, then on Emily when she had been brave enough to try to break them up. The deputy and his partner had shown up. No lights or sirens. They had heard what Bill and Sarah were saying through the door at their daughter. They rang the door. When Bill flung the door open and screamed, "What the fuck do you want?" he was met with the butt of a service police revolver on his skull. The partner saw Sarah drunkenly trying to record, ripped the cell phone out of her hands, broke it in half, and stuffed it in his pockets. Then they dragged her and her unconscious husband to their cruiser. "Emily, pack your stuff. We'll be back for you in 20 minutes. Through some creative writing, and with help in a very few high places, Emily had then been placed in a safe house as a material witness in the kid's trial. She was never going to testify. The deputy would make sure of that. Truth be known, the deputy had a daughter who played the piano, so he had a soft spot for this kid with immense talent who just couldn't catch a break from her family. Emily had just turned 19, so she was a fully emancipated adult. She understood that she only had a short while in the safe house, then she'd have to make some decisions about her future. In the meantime, besides playing her keyboard and walking to Stoneman Douglas to continue playing there, as well as earning some money teaching students funneled to her by Mr. Kaminsky, she was making friends on the assaulted site, especially her mentor, Navy Yard 14. Emily felt comfortable with Maxine, almost as comfortable as she did with Mr. Kaminsky. She told Maxine about her challenges at home, at school, at just being Emily. She knew she had this amazing gift because of 4 lousy words the kid said to her right after he splattered her with someone else's blood. She felt guilty pursuing that gift, felt guilty doing what she most loved doing in the whole world. And she was angry. How could an 18-year-old boy buy an AR-15? How could his background check come back clean? There had been multiple calls, multiple warnings from 2016 and 2017, including from her own high school, that the kid had a major screw loose. Why? How? She didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go. She agreed to meet with Mr. Wilson on Saturday morning, June 30th at the music room. She told Mr. Kaminsky she was meeting someone for a possible job interview, and he was thrilled for her. Ray Wilson arrived at the Stoneman Douglas North parking lot a couple of minutes before 10 a.m. He'd had a great dinner with Donnie and Les, a wonderful night's sleep in his suite at the Fontainebleau, and had a relatively short drive to Parkland. He had been told that a door he could see from the parking lot would be propped open for him. He noticed the flowers and signs around Building 12 as he was heading to the music room. Suddenly, he stopped, listened. He knew that song. Who Are You Waiting For? Melissa Etheridge. Maxine had told Emily. He followed the sound, trying to keep his emotions in check. He had thought Larry, the cop back in Front Royal, had done a wonderful job playing this song. The version he was hearing now was 10 times better. Beautiful, elegant, joyful. As he entered the room, there sat Emily, brown hair in baggy blue, eyes closed, moving her head from side to side. Ray waited until she was done. That's the most beautiful version of my favorite song I ever heard. Slightly startled, she replied, "Oh, I didn't know you were here. Navy Yard 14 said it was your favorite and asked if I'd play it for you." Maxine. She knows me well. I'm Ray. Hi, I'm Emily. She looked down. Shy, he thought. Can we talk here? Yeah, no one's here. I have to get my key back in a couple of months, but until then, I play and teach some here. Great! She was the youngest person he talked to, would probably stay the youngest. Has an amazing gift. Seems quiet, shy, not mad at the world. Give it to her straight up. Pull no punches. See how she responds. Pulled up a chair, then told her about the plan, including the new wrinkle from Donnie and Les. Made sure she understood that the result was going to help other 19-year-olds not to have to look down the barrel of an AR-15, but was probably not going to end well for her. He finished. She sat there, staring at her amazingly talented hands for the longest time. Then looked up, steely-eyed. I'm in. You could have knocked Ray over with a feather. What? Really? You're in? Emily, did you hear my description? Do you understand what's going to happen? Either you die, you're playing concertos for the prison population until they stick a needle in your arm to kill you, or by some miracle you'll get the opportunity to run from law enforcement the rest of your life. Mr. Wilson, did Navy Yard 14 recommend me? Well, yeah, Maxine did. That's her name. We use our names when we're not on the site. Okay. So Maxine recommended me to you. I assume she gave you my backstory. Yes, she did. All of it. You've had it rough. There's no denying that. I'm just surprised. You've got this wonderful ability to transform a room with your music. Not to get maudlin here, but that song was played at my wife's funeral. I heard. I'm sorry. I appreciate that. Your version took me not to her graveside, but to the first time she and I held hands. He stopped for a moment. You haven't cried yet, you fucker. Don't cry now. And listen to Melissa Etheridge sing that song. You have magic in your soul. It would be such a shame for it to go to waste. While Ray was talking, Emily had been looking down. She looked up. Mr. Wilson, that piece touched you because playing it for you gave me some meaning, some purpose, even if only for a short while. When you heard it, that was the 10th time in a row I'd played it. Maxine had told me just how important that piece is to you. That made that piece important to me. When the kid looked at me after getting someone else's brains and blood all over me and said, "I like your music," something died inside me. It takes so much out of me to play that I'm usually exhausted when I'm done. His voice, his words echo in my head. And then if I received any love, sympathy, compassion from my family, no. I'm too plain. I'm too fat. I'm too stupid. I'm friends with a murderer. Now it was her turn, but she couldn't hold it back. After a few moments, she looked up again. "Mr. Wilson, I hate the fact that kid was able to buy an AR-15 at age 18 with a clean background check. I hate that kid for saying those words to me and taking away the one thing in my whole life that I genuinely loved. I hate my family. I never want to see or hear from them again." For the first time, rage filled her voice. "Mr. Wilson, excuse me for being blunt, but I want some motherfucker to pay for what happened to me. I'm in." Ray looked at her and saw her in an entirely different way. Damaged goods. "Okay, Emily, you're in. I didn't think of one way your music could live on and maybe do some good." "Like what?" "I have a beautiful baby grand piano back at the farm in Front Row, Virginia. I'll get that baby tuned up. We'll find out some of the music some of your fellow assaulted like. We'll get some recording equipment in there. We'll record you playing and sell it online with the proceeds going to gun violence nonprofits. 2 or 3 of them. How does that sound?" For the first time in a long time, Emily Curtis smiled. "You're on, Mr. Wilson. Only if you call me Ray." When he got back to his palatial suite, as he liked to call it, Ray called Maxine and started with, "Well, that was a cute trick." Giggle. "Oh, come on, Ray. After the hell I gave you, you'd think you'd be appreciative of a little kindness thrown your way." "A little? Emily Curtis can play her some piano." Almost had me in tears." "Good. Time you let a little of that out." "Okay, what do we got now? Want to stay close or travel?" "I like my palatial suite. Let's stay close." The airport shooting in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale, 19.